There comes a point in life when the impossible begins to whisper your name. You might not hear it clearly at first. It begins as a quiet tug, a question that lingers when the world around you says, "Stay where you are." But deep inside, something wants more. Not out of greed or ego, but out of wonder. You start to wonder what life would look like if you removed every single limitation you've placed on yourself. What if you stopped asking, "Can I really do this?" and started asking, "Why not me?" This story is an invitation to explore those possibilities, the ones that seem out of reach, too ambitious, too far-fetched. It's about understanding that the difference between ordinary and extraordinary isn't talent or luck. It's belief, consistency, and courage. Because when you learn to rewrite your limits, you learn that you were never meant to live small. The power of small beginnings. Every dream begins in a place that doesn't look like a dream. Sometimes it begins behind a counter, at the back of a room, or doing something that no one notices. But those moments matter, because how you treat the smallest job reveals how you'll handle the biggest one. There was once someone who started out in a role most would overlook, just a coat check attendant at a scientific club filled with explorers, astronauts, and pioneers. While others saw it as a side job, she saw it as a front row seat to greatness. She studied the people she admired, learned their habits, and absorbed their energy, and instead of treating it like just coat check, she gave it 150%. She remembered names, perfected her system, and treated every task like it was training for something greater. That's the secret so many people miss. You can design your own reputation long before anyone gives you a title. She wrote down the words she wanted people to associate with her: professional, precise, trustworthy, capable, and made those words her standard. Each shift, she lived them until they became true. That's how ordinary moments become extraordinary training grounds. You don't wait for opportunities to shape you. You use what you have to prepare for what's coming. Designing your own reputation. Most people think reputation is something you earn after years of achievement, but that's not true. Reputation starts the moment you decide who you want to become and act accordingly. You can design it, you can write it out, and every action you take either proves it or betrays it. When she decided to treat her small job like something sacred, something incredible began to happen. People noticed. Not because she bragged, but because excellence always shines quietly. Her name began to carry weight. Her work ethic turned heads. And one day, the same organization that once had her working behind the counter asked her to organize their biggest event. Years later, she would be sitting on their board of directors, the very same club where she once hung coats. This is what happens when you decide that where you are right now isn't your ceiling. It's your starting line. Your environment doesn't define your destiny. Your effort does. The journey to the edge of space. What began in a coat room would one day lead to the stars. Years of work, research, and persistence brought her closer to the dream she had once dismissed as unrealistic. She studied bioastronautics, the science of human life in space. She spent years working on microgravity research flights, where scientists experienced 20 seconds of weightlessness in special aircraft that mimic space conditions. Each flight, each test, was a step closer to something bigger. But dreams rarely unfold in straight lines. They unfold through years of showing up, doing the unseen work, and believing in your own potential long enough for the world to catch up. Eventually, she found herself inside a spacecraft, ready to launch into the sky. It had taken over a decade of preparation, and yet, when the engines ignited and gravity released its grip, she realized something that no amount of training could prepare her for: the view. Seeing Earth from space isn't just beautiful, it's humbling. It's a perspective shift so powerful it breaks you open. From above, the noise of life disappears. You don't see borders or divisions, just one fragile, luminous world, a world you belong to, but are suddenly seeing from the outside. It changes you. Because when you see how small you are compared to the vastness of creation, your problems shrink too. You begin to understand that fear, doubt, comparison, none of it matters when you're staring at eternity. Lessons from the edge space didn't just teach her about science. It taught her about surrender, about letting go of perfection, about understanding that some moments are glass and some are plastic, that in life not everything can be balanced perfectly, but everything can be approached with intention. She learned that criticism will come, especially when you dare to live beyond expectations. People will question your choices, your dreams, your priorities, but those voices fade when you're clear about who you are. She learned that guilt and regret are not the same. Guilt tells you that you're not enough. Regret reminds you that you had a choice. But when your purpose is clear, you realize that pursuing your dream isn't selfish, it's sacred. Because when you live fully, you give others permission to do the same. Rewriting the limits. There's a moment in every dreamer's journey where you stop asking for permission, where you realize that the limits you thought were holding you back were never real. They were imagined. And the moment you stop imagining limits, you begin to imagine possibilities. Ordinary people are capable of extraordinary things. That's the truth. Not because they were chosen, but because they chose to believe. They chose to show up again and again, even when no one was watching. They learned to adjust the limiter on their imagination and see themselves as part of something greater. The key isn't to figure everything out quickly. The key is to stay motivated long enough for everything to unfold. It's to trust the process through the years when nothing seems to happen, until suddenly, it all does. Dream without limits. So maybe the message isn't just about space or science. Maybe it's about life itself, about realizing that the extraordinary is built on the foundation of ordinary effort. Your dream may not involve rockets or stars, but the principle is the same. If you start where you are, give everything you have, and refuse to accept your own limits, you'll discover something powerful. The world doesn't belong to those who are extraordinary. It belongs to those who are willing to become it. So take the small step today. Write down the kind of person you want to be. Live those words. And remember, you don't have to be chosen to do something great. You just have to choose yourself. Because the moment you do, you're already halfway to the stars.